So after my master, I was looking for a PhD program in neuroscience because I wanted to study neuroscience doing research in this field. So I started to look in different countries, different options, and I discovered the Institute of Neuroscience in Alicante, and I got contact with my current supervisor. We see that we really like each other. I really like her last work on prosocial behavior in rats. So we talked and we discussed ideas for future experiments that later would have become real projects. So I decided that I would have joined her, and I also knew that the institute was very good institute for neuroscience in Spain, also in Europe, and also I already lived in Spain for 10 months for my Erasmus. So I already knew that I would feel comfortable living in Spain. I already know Spanish a bit, so I was really ready to start my PhD there. So at the moment of looking for a PhD, my supervisor was starting her new group. So she had no financial at that moment, so I had to look also for a PhD fellowship. And I discovered the InphINIT program. I decided to apply, and finally it was successful. And it is a very good program because it helps students to carry out research stays and courses that, for example, in my case, will be very useful for the progress of my PhD. So I'm very happy with this. Okay, so my research interest is social decision making in human and animals, and in particular how social decision making is reflected in the brain and the process of how we make decisions. This is particularly important because if you consider that in everyday life we have social interaction with our own species that are other humans, it often happens that we have to take decisions in a social context. So our decisions have an impact also on other people. So I'm studying social decision making in rats that are highly social animals, so they are using as a model of social interaction and social behavior. And in particular, I'm studying a kind of social behavior that is prosocial behavior, so an action that benefits another individual. And to do this, I'm using a social decision-making task that was developed by my supervisor previously, and to demonstrate that rats indeed behave prosocially when it matters to give food to another rat. So one of the rats has to help the other to get food. And actually they do this, so they behave prosocially. We want to understand more about this. So in my project, I want to bring this project a step further and answer the question, for example, what we know about different factors that modulate prosocial choices. So I want to study how familiarity, if they know each other or if they don't know each other, how gender, so if they are male or females, and social status, so if the rat is dominant or subordinate, how this impacts on prosocial choice. And moreover, a second objective, I would say, in my project is to know better what happens in the brain when we decide to help another individual. So to do this, I plan to manipulate the neural activity while our rats behave in the task, and to discover which neural circuits are required for animals to behave prosocially. This is important, for example, when you think about social disorders, where social decision making is often impaired, and mapping brain circuits for social behavior in general and for prosocial decision is important when it is the moment to develop new ideas for therapies and interventions for social disorders.